So if you're not aware, as of June 5th, Bitcoin hit below 60,000, which has everyone anticipating if we're going to keep on dumping. We're starting to see a whole bunch of spot orders around that 55 to 60,000 zone, which is showcasing more pressure for sellers if we're going to keep dipping. There is also anticipation that potentially we're already going to be bottoming out for Bitcoin nearing the end of summer. And I'm going to walk you through a few different perspectives on what a lot of these big traders are doing and the movement that we're seeing around Bitcoin and what is expected next. With all that being said though, let's go and jump straight into the price action, the charts, and the perspectives you need to be looking at. All right guys, so as I said, today we saw a massive capitulation candle touching all the way downwards to 58,000, which was really crazy. We just saw the new daily candle start about literally 9 minutes ago, and it's already retesting the end of the fourth in exactly where we closed, and you're starting to see a little bit of a rejection. If I get to a smaller time frame moving into the 4 hour, you can start to see the validation that I have been pulling and what I am focused on. I'm currently expecting a rejection right here, and from there starting to move downward to this next level of support, which this line, if we move back to the daily time frame, is the specific support line in terms of where we started to break out of, which resulted in that whole touch upwards to that CME gap upwards to 83 to 84,000. Since then, we have been breaking down, and this is where I am forecasting that we're going to treat this previous line, which acted as resistance for all of these movements, as support. Now, does that mean we're not going to be falling below 56,000? I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is more than likely we're going to be seeing a rejection here soon in the next hour or so. More than likely we're going to break down, and the weekly closes out on a Saturday afternoon. So if we look at the weekly and exactly what is being forecasted, you can start to see exactly my thesis on exactly what I think is going to be taking place. This movement that is, already being initiated, showcasing that there is a little bit of support here, but I'm sure we're still going to be touching or breaking this line before we actually start to see that next big move to the upside. So with all that being said, that's my analysis on currently what I'm thinking is going to be happening around Bitcoin right now. Now, if we jump into the perspectives on exactly what is happening around spot orders and predictions on the bottom for Bitcoin, this is where you can start to get a better understanding on what everyone is looking at exactly for sellers to keep driving down the price around Bitcoin. So goes into say massive Bitcoin buy orders between that 55,000 and 60,000 level. Now sellers are now having their hardest test. And what does he mean by this? Spot orders are pretty much people that are just buying Bitcoin, accumulating Bitcoin for the long haul. And as a result, whenever we start to see price action break down to these levels, spot orders are consecutively being bought all over the place, which fuels the price action around Bitcoin. So we need to break these regions if we're going to keep on dumping below. If not, it's going to act as a level of support, which is going to start to act as a move upward. And this is where it goes into my perspective on exactly where we could be bottoming out for Bitcoin, around that 56,000 all the way to potentially sub 50,000. And this is that verge that I'm trying to show everyone that a lot of people are focusing on. Now, moving into another perspective, everyone's talking about how even though right now we're starting to see massive deviations and everyone's expecting that everything is going to start pumping, right now is a really great time to start spot buying around Bitcoin. If you really believe in Bitcoin and exactly how it started off as literally a cent, less than a cent, and now it's worth upwards of 60 to 70,000, hitting a peak all-time high of 125,000 in October of 2025. If you believe in Bitcoin, now is a great time to be buying. He goes in to say, this is coming from the guy who publicly shorted and sold the top. Also, someone just like that is Dr. Profit. And he goes in to say he's buying as much Bitcoin as he possibly can. And it's because this is the asset of the future. In terms of anyone that actually believes in crypto and blockchain technology and all that good stuff, Bitcoin is going to be the asset that sets everything apart from everything. And anyone that has any money to allocate to a great asset is doing it right now. This jumps into Dr. Profit's perspective on exactly how he's expecting still a little bit more of a deviation, and that targets that sub 55,000 region, which we're going to be jumping into. But I want to walk you through Benjamin Cohen's perspective around exactly when we see the bottom for Bitcoin and whenever it actually starts to rally back up. He goes in to say, while I think Bitcoin bottoms in Q4 2026, the time to start accumulating Bitcoin is often after the drop into the summer. I basically just ignore Bitcoin for the first half of the midterm years, which we are in, then look for deals in the second half. You do not have to time bottoms exactly to make money. And this is what I am talking about. This moves into Dr. Profit's perspective on exactly how he has been, shorting the market since 120,000, similar to Killa, and he's expecting that move to potentially sub 60, moving into sub 50K actually, which is going to be really, really crazy. 49,000 Bitcoin is going to cause massive, massive capitulation. But this is where a lot of people are going to start getting ready for that next leg up. After Bitcoin has bottomed out and moving into new all-time highs, more than likely at the end of the year, moving into the following year, 2027, which honestly, 2027 is not going to be too bright with all of the different things going on and just a lot of bad things going on in the world and inflation and overall politics, lots of crazy stuff. But in terms of what I'm trying to get across to you is that Bitcoin is on the verge of bottoming out. We're watching Bitcoin because, as I said, it's currently on the verge of making a huge move. Is it going to just start pumping from here? I honestly do not believe so. I think we're still going to be seeing more red and downside before we actually see that jump up. I'm looking at the weekly to see exactly how we're going to be closing out and if we're going to be touching this range. From there, I also want to get a better understanding on exactly if we're going to be bouncing or trading sideways moving into the end of July, which is really going to show us that perspective around Benjamin Cohen on exactly how Bitcoin is often dumping and bottoming out at the end of summer. So with all that being said, I wanted to give you the perspective on the price action that we saw today, my analysis and perspective on more than likely what's going to be happening, and then the perspectives from different analysts and traders that are looking at the market, just so you can be aware of what is actually taking place. But with all that being said, what am I currently doing? As I said, I am looking to short the market. I'm actually shorting the market right now. My position was up about like 80% and then it fell back down to around like 20%, 10% now. But it's because I'm doing more of a swing trade as opposed to a day trade or a scalp. Right now, I'm looking to target that region, that little crevice that I have been showing you. And this is where everyone's expecting a lot of sideways price action moving into the end of summer from July into August. And this is more than likely going to be the bottom for Bitcoin already in the next few months. And then from there, everyone is going to start spot buying, getting really crazy with their orders around Bitcoin, and it's going to cause a massive rally. And if you're on the right side of the movement, you can play the market and you can make a lot of money. Now, this is not financial advice by any means, and you should not be taking financial advice from random people on YouTube. But I like to walk you guys through the current price action that is taking place, give you the analysis so that you can understand behind it, and then the perspectives around people that have been here longer than me so that you can see that there is a consensus in the market, a broad understanding of what's going to be happening. I told you in my last video, Bitcoin's going to be dumping, expect it, and guess what happened? Bitcoin just keeps on dumping, but most people are not focusing on the correct information. They're more getting all hyped up on their random influencer or call that they love that's preaching to them that everything's going to be okay and that we're making a whole bunch of money and everything's all good. That's not how it works. Keep up to date with everything that's going on. If you guys have any questions or suggestions on content, drop it down below. I'm going to keep you guys updated on what's going on. I'm going to drop a video this Sunday to let you know how the markets are looking and exactly what I'm doing and preparing moving into next week. With all that being said, do not capitulate your bags. Stay tuned. Get ready for some massive, crazy price action in the market, and hopefully you're on the right side of it. All right. Peace.